Welcome. Hi. I'm so glad you're here to be at my Chèvre webinar with me where I'm going to teach you how to make Chèvre. I'm Karina Sailing and I have some goodies with me today. There's Chèvre right here and I have cheesecake that I made with Chèvre right here. I hope you can see it okay. So welcome again to the webinar. I am so happy you're here and I can't wait to teach you. Just make sure it's about 40 minutes and stay till the end for a very awesome surprise I have for you. And we're gonna get started right away. So let me switch to screen share here and I'm gonna teach you how to make Chèvre. All right, so like I said, today you are going to learn how to make Chèvre cheese and learn the quick and easy steps of making this yummy, yummy, delicious, soft cheese with perfect results every single time. You know, oh boy, you can do so much stuff with Chèvre that is so amazingly yummy. You can add herbs and spices to the Chèvre, whatever you like. If you like garlic, you hammer the garlic a little more. Or you can actually shape the chèvre into different shapes, like make these little balls with it, and then even marinate them in oil. Man, can you imagine those beautiful Christmas presents you can make with those? And of course, our family's absolute favorite is this amazing cheesecake that I promise is to die for. I have that cheesecake in my online cheesemaking course. The recipe is in there. And also look at the green salad with chèvre and caramelized peaches. Does that sound fancy or what? Okay, so come join me here today. What you're going to learn in this webinar today is why making cheese is so much easier than you might think. And we're going to look at some common misperceptions really quickly about cheese making. And these are misperceptions that stop people from making cheese, which is not cool. And the equipment you need to make cheese, we're going to go over that. I'm also going to show you the exact ingredients you need for making Chèvre cheese. I'm going to give you the recipe for Chèvre, teach you the proven step-by-step instructions on how to make it. I have literally made hundreds of pounds of Chèvre. So when I say proven, I mean it. How to avoid the most common mistakes, because guess what? I have made them all. I have made them all and I don't want you to make them, so I'm going to teach you not to make them. And you're going to discover my tips and tricks to make a successful batch of Chèvre every single time. Now, just really quickly to tell you a little bit about me and why the heck am I qualified to teach you this stuff. I am Karina Sailing, like I already said earlier. I am the co-founder with my husband of Marble Mount Homestead. We have a very popular website, marblemounthomestead.com. And on our website is also access to our blog, which is one of the top 100 homesteading blogs worldwide, which still blows my mind. We have lots of free content, lots of free tutorials to learn all kinds of self-sufficiency skills. We teach homesteading and wilderness retreats, and we do that in online workshops and also in-person classes and workshops here on our beautiful homestead. Now, if you have paid any attention, you realize I have an accent, and that accent is because I am from Germany. I grew up in Germany, southern Germany to be correct, where, look at these Alps. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I grew up with. So I'm spoiled when it comes to beautiful landscapes. And I'm also really spoiled when it comes to cheese. I grew up with the best cheese, you guys. Made locally by animals that grazed on fresh pasture. So I am really spoiled. So I've been living in the Pacific Northwest in America now since 1992. So for quite a while now. And we homestead here, my beautiful husband right there, Steve, the handsome man, and our three children. The oldest one is Kai, the middle one is Lucas, and the little girl there is Eva. And we raise them on our homestead here, where we homeschooled them most of their life. They started school a year back, public school. You know, once the hormones hit, they want to be around other peers and girls and things like that. So that's fine with me. They're doing great. So we homestead here. We raise dairy goats. There's your little baby right there. And there is my son Lucas with one of the babies. The kids are really involved with the goats. They help when there's labor happening and we have to pull out goats or attend to them. We also raise ducks and we also raise a bunch of chickens. We raise chickens for meat as well as for eggs. And then some years we raise pigs, some years we don't. But man, best pork chops, I tell you. They like the whey, by the way, from cheese making. We also have a huge organic vegetable garden. We grow a lot of our own food. Our children are super involved with helping in the garden, growing food. And of course, hello, I make a lot of cheese. Lots and lots and lots of cheese. That's Gouda cheese, that's hard cheese, soft cheese. I teach cheese making workshops at our homestead. And of course, I also teach cheese making workshops online. So that's me, a little bit about me. And now I want to address some of the common and wrong myths out there about cheese making. So some people think they just assume that they need their own dairy animals to make cheese, or that it requires raw milk to make great tasting artisan cheese. And that really can't be further from the truth. A lot of my students actually buy cow milk at the store, and that's pasteurized, and it's just fine. It works just fine. Now, some people also worry that they need to buy very expensive equipment and ingredients and things like that to make cheese, and that is absolutely not true either. In fact, most of the things you need for your cheese making, you're going to already have in your kitchen. You're going to see that in a minute. Now, the other thing is people really tend to think that cheese making is a super complicated, scientific, difficult process. And I'm telling you, I have taught so many people, including children, how to make cheese, especially the Chèvre cheese. It is the easiest thing, and you'll see that. Some people are really scared that they're going to poison their family and their friends with their cheese. And again, I'm telling you, if you follow good directions like I'm going to give you, and if you have everything clean, it is completely and utterly fine. People have been making cheese for thousands of years. And if you use the right recipes and the right process, it is absolutely safe. In fact, you're going to be able to show off your cheese and be the big cheese when you demonstrate the cheese that you made. So they're going to be really impressed. Moving right along, equipment that you're going to need for the Chèvre. So probably a lot of the stuff you already have in your kitchen. So you're going to want to need a stainless steel pot. And you want that large enough to fit 5 quarts of milk. So we're talking about like a 2-gallon pot or larger. I don't want you to use aluminum because the aluminum can react with the acidity of the milk. So stainless steel really is the best. You will need a thermometer. And digital thermometers are best. Make sure it's calibrated correctly. Do you see the thermometer there on the right? That is one of those dial thermometers, and they have a little screw in the back there. And I have had problems before where when I clean that thermometer, the screw kind of moves and it calibrates. You know, it messes up the temperature. There was one year where I made cheese and it just all tasted really dry and weird and just not right. And I realized I had made cheese at much too high temperatures without realizing it because my thermometer was not working right. So I like the digital ones there on the left. They work just fine. You're also going to need stainless steel utensils. In this case, like a kind of a ladle or some perforated ladle to stir the milk and the curds, measuring spoon, measuring cups, and then a ladle to scoop the curds into the mold. I'll tell you about that later. And optionally, an eyedropper, depending on how your rennet comes. And I'll tell you about that later too. Now, you either need Chèvre molds, see those plastic, food-grade plastic Chèvre mold containers there, or just use cheesecloth. And Chèvre molds are basically food-grade plastic containers with drainage holes so that the whey can drain out, and then you are left only with the curds, which is then the Chèvre. If you do use cheesecloth, which you can totally do, Please buy the butter muslin, which means the fine cheesecloth and not the coarser one, because otherwise the curds really drain through too fast. You know what? And some people have used boiled pillowcase, boiled because you sterilize it that way, and it works just fine too. I personally like the Chèvre molds because it gives me a consistent product every single time. Sometimes when I make a bigger batch of Chèvre in a cheesecloth, it drains a little bit unevenly, and if you handle it too rough, the inside might be a little rubbery. So you can experiment with that. The Chèvre molds are really not that expensive, and I literally have had mine for 15 years, so it's a super great investment. Now let's talk about the ingredients you're going to need to make Chèvre. Obviously, you need milk. And you can make cheese with milk from many different animals. You can make cheese with cow milk or goat milk or sheep milk, water buffalo or yak even, because, you know, who doesn't have an extra yak standing around in their backyard, right? Milk is 7/8 water. Can you believe it? That actually, when I learned that fact, it made sense to me, because when I was nursing my kids, whenever they latched on to take their first few sips of milk, when I nursed them, I just got immediately thirsty. So a lot of water goes out of the body when you lactate. The rest of milk is made up of proteins and minerals and milk sugar, which is lactose, milk fat, vitamins, and trace elements. Now, typically, Chèvre is made with goat milk. But you know what? You can make it with cow milk. Absolutely. If you make it with cow milk, it's called farmer's cheese instead of Chèvre. But you can totally make it. It tastes very similar and it's delicious either way. You know, even if you usually make cheese with raw milk like I do, you know, all the Gouda and the Chèvre and the Manchego and the Tome and the feta I always make it raw. But when I make Chèvre, I do pasteurize the milk because it sits there. It's a fresh cheese. It sits there for a long time, just in case there are any bacteria, they can't flourish. You know, with aged cheese like Gouda and Tome and cheddar, you have to age it at least 2 months, which will take care of all the pathogens in the milk if there were any, and it makes it safe to eat. But again, with Chèvre, I pasteurize it just to be on the safe side. And it works better that way, actually, because then the bacteria work better. The number one thing I want you to know, if there's one thing you get out of this webinar, this is what I want you to know. Never use ultra pasteurized milk. You can use pasteurized milk, but don't use ultra pasteurized milk, because it has been heated so high that it messes with the protein structure of the milk, and then the coagulation won't happen. How do I know this? Well, one time at one of my retreats, I taught people how to make cheese with cow milk. And I usually use my own goat milk. But this time I said, well, let's just teach people how to do it with cow milk. And I bought the milk and I didn't realize it was ultra pasteurized. And here I am teaching my class, and the milk won't coagulate. It means it won't, the rennet won't work. And it was so embarrassing. People didn't care because they just were eating all the cheese that I gave them for sampling. But I really cared. And so I learned my lesson the hard way. Don't ever use ultra pasteurized milk. Now, I love, love, love raw milk because I have my own goats and got my own raw milk, and it tastes super awesome that way. Raw milk tastes really delicious when it's fresh. It has a higher vitamin content than heat-treated milk, and a lot of lactose intolerant people who can actually not consume dairy products that are made conventionally, they can eat or drink cheese or milk or yogurt made with raw milk because it's easier to digest. However, you got to make sure it's fresh and clean, and you get it from a source that you can really trust. And the other good thing about raw milk is that it contains natural flora that are great for cheese making. I actually, one time, one of my friends who is a commercial cheesemaker, goat cheese, she came to my house and she tasted some of my cheese, and she got kind of a weird, kind of jealous look on her face, and she's like, your cheese tastes really good. And I'm like, yeah. And she has to pasteurize hers, which changes the flavor of the cheese some. I mean, it's really yummy if it's raw. So she was kind of like, wow, that's really good. I make all my cheese except the Chèvre with raw goat milk. Goat milk has smaller butterfat globules than cow milk, so it's easier to digest. Like I said earlier, people can drink goat milk versus cow milk. Cheese experts can actually tell by the taste of the artisan cheese what the animals ate. So, where I grew up in Germany, in the Alps there, a lot of people raise cows, dairy cows. And I remember the festivals that we had at the beginning of summer where we decorated the cows with flowers and garlands of flowers around their neck. And then the whole village came together and we walked the cows up into the mountains, and there was a big celebration and bands and brass bands playing. And so the cows would just be up there all summer long in their little alpine huts, and the shepherd or cowherder was with them and making cheese with that delicious milk, with the wonderful fresh grass and the herbs that the animals ate. And people who are real connoisseurs, they can actually tell you what the cows ate by tasting the cheese. Isn't it something? Now, if you want to find raw milk, you can find it at this website. It's a www.realmilk.com/realmilkfinder. You can just Google that. It's easy to find, and it will break it down state to state. All right, now the other ingredients you need are cultures. And these cultures, they're also referred to as starter cultures. And what they do is they inoculate the milk with the good bacteria. They also raise the acidity of the milk, which that's what you're looking for in cheese making. They help the rennet later on to coagulate the milk. And they also help preserve and develop the flavor of the cheese during the aging process, which with Chèvre is not really an issue. But when you make things like cheddar or tome or manchego, you use different cultures for different cheese. And they used to be made from the whey from the previous estate's cheese making, kind of like sourdough starter, you just keep it going. And then it's just use some from, a few days ago, and you keep it going that way. You can propagate these cultures from mother cultures, if you keep it in the freezer. There's all kinds of things you can do and keep it going if you want to be super self-sufficient. But I really like the freeze-dried cultures. They're called DVI cultures, standing for direct vat inoculated. Super easy, super convenient. You just keep them in your freezer, and then you just take a little tiny bit at a time and sprinkle it into your milk instead of having to mess with the whole mother culture and all that. And you just keep it in the freezer. Now, there are two types of cultures. There is mesophilic culture, and the mesophilic culture is used for low temperature cheese like Chèvre, Gouda, and cheddar. That's low temperature. And some people use cultured buttermilk instead of these cultures, so you can absolutely do that. And then the other type of culture used in cheese making is thermophilic culture. Thermo meaning heat loving. So thermophilic for high temperature cheese like Parmesan, mozzarella, provolone, and Emmentaler, where you have to heat the milk higher during the cheese making process. And for the Chèvre, we use mesophilic. Alrighty, moving right along. Rennet is the other ingredient you need. Now, rennet is weird, you guys. Like, whoever figured out that rennet would do what it does. Basically, it's a substance that is used to coagulate milk. When I say coagulate, I mean, making it thick, like, how, yogurt, how it's kind of thicker. Coagulation basically makes it thick. And it contains an enzyme that acts on the milk protein casein. And what rennet does, it separates milk into curds, which are the solids, and the whey, which is the liquid. And rennet comes in different types. It comes in liquid and powdered form or tablets. I love the liquid stuff. It's called DCI rennet. I love it because, again, it's super easy to use that way. And I can just measure it out. You got to keep it in the fridge, and you got to store it away from light, because otherwise it will go bad or it won't be strong anymore. Usually they say it keeps for a year in the fridge. I've kept mine longer and it's still fine. but usually they say keep it for a year. Um, Now, for the vegetarians of you, I am very sorry to tell you this, but rennet is a strange thing. It's extracted from the fourth stomach of a calf. And however they figured out that that's what happens, I have no idea. Might be because, back in the old days, the nomads, they were transporting their liquids like water and milk in the, animal intestines, bags made out of those, and then it sloshed around in the heat all day long and was agitated and just basically made cheese at the end of the day. That's probably how they figured it out, but how weird is that, huh? They do make vegetarian rennet as well if you don't like the idea of using animal rennet. I don't like vegetable rennet personally. I've made lots of cheese. I don't know. I just think it makes it bitter. But, I'm a little bit of a snob, so who knows? All right, friends, let's make some chèvre. What do you say, huh? Let's do it. Let me give you some insider tips before we get started. If you use raw milk, like I said earlier, I pasteurize it. What I do though, I pasteurize it at low temperature. So I pasteurize at 145 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. Some people pasteurize at 180 for 5 seconds or something like this. I do that for yogurt, but I like the slow pasteurization at lower heat because it's better than high temperatures, since that way it preserves the beneficial enzymes and keeps the proteins in the milk intact. And it's actually the closest to raw milk that you can get, so it works great. Again, remember I told you never use ultra pasteurized milk. It won't work, friends. It won't. Now, chèvre freezes super well. So I usually make a batch, and then of course we, chomp on it, either the whole thing, or if some is left over, I just freeze the rest in like half-pound packages. And I put it, in plastic wrap, and then I put it in a Ziploc bag with a date on it. When you do freeze it unsalted without any herbs and spices added, and then just thaw it at room temperature and add your seasoning later. It works really great. The other thing I want to mention before we jump in here is keep everything clean. Personally, you know what? I don't use bleach. I don't like bleach. Good soap, good hot water works fine. Or you could boil everything to sterilize everything. People do that as well. Now, for many, many years, I've made chèvre with cheesecloth, like I said a little bit earlier, and that works just fine. Sometimes when I doubled the recipe, it kind of made the inside drain less than the outside. It wasn't so consistent. So now I really love using those special chèvre molds I showed you earlier for draining the whey. It's great. It's a little more expensive than buying cheesecloth, but again, I've had mine for so long, 1.5 decades, and they still work great. It's just, I find it's more consistent when I use the chèvre molds. Let's do it. Okay. I'm going to show you today how to make cheese with 5 quarts of milk. But if you only have 2 quarts, I'll show you the smaller amount too. I just really find that 5 quarts is the sweet spot for us in terms of just how the recipe works and how much we eat as a family. It works great. So you're going to need 5 quarts of goat milk, or of course cow milk, right? Like I said, if you use cow milk, it's called farmer's cheese. If you use goat milk, it's called chèvre. Or you use 2 quarts of goat milk. The 2 quarts is in parentheses, so you can just find the recipe for a smaller amount in parentheses. You need 1/4 teaspoon MM100 culture for 5 quarts, or if you use 2 quarts, you use 1/8 teaspoon MM100 culture. Now, when I say MM100 culture, I mean that freeze-dried culture I mentioned earlier, and I'm going to show you later how you can get all the links and everything to all these ingredients, so don't worry. So you use 1/4 teaspoon MM100 culture, that's mesophilic culture, for 5 quarts, or you use 1/8 teaspoon MM100 culture for 2 quarts, or instead of the freeze-dried culture, you could use a 1/2 cup of cultured buttermilk. But make sure it's cultured buttermilk from the store that has all the live cultures in it. You're also going to need water, cool water, 1/3 cup cool water. That's what you're going to use to dilute the rennet in. You always dilute rennet in cool water, not warm water. Otherwise, it'll kill the enzymes. Or you're going to use 1/4 cup cool water for 2 quarts. Then you're going to need 3 drops of rennet, or for 2 quarts, you're going to use 1 drop. Don't worry, I'll explain it all later. You're going to need 1 teaspoon of salt, or half a teaspoon of salt for 2 quarts. You're going to need a stainless steel pot to fit the amount of milk that you're going to use. And you are going, for 5 quarts of milk, you're going to use 8 Chèvre molds, or for 4 Chèvre cheese molds for 2 quarts. Or, of course, the muslin cheesecloth. Remember muslin, the small weave cheesecloth? So I'm going to teach you right now how to make Chèvre. Step 1, you're going to put your milk into your stainless steel pot, and you're going to heat it to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So sometimes what happens when you heat your milk, you're going to walk away and you're going to go, oh my goodness, it went way too high, or then so then you need to cool it down. Or because I pasteurize my milk at 145 degrees for 30 minutes, it's at 145 and I have to bring it down to 80. So all I do is I cool it down in that in the sink right there with cold water, and stir it around, do that a couple of times until it is down at 80 degrees. And then once the temperature of the milk is at 80 degrees, you're going to sprinkle that freeze-dried culture right there. Do you see it right there in the picture? Freeze-dried. It's kind of like a powder. You're going to sprinkle that culture over the milk. Just sprinkle it over, and then you're going to just let it sit there in the milk and rehydrate for a couple of minutes or so, and then you're going to stir it into the milk. If you use 5 quarts of milk, you're going to use 1/4 teaspoon MM100 culture. If you use 2 quarts of milk, you're going to use 1/8 teaspoon of MM100 culture. Sprinkle it over, let it rehydrate for a couple of minutes, and then stir it in. Or like I said earlier, you could also use half a cup of buttermilk and just stir it in real good, like maybe for 30 seconds, you just use your perforated spoon there and you just stir it and make sure it's mixed up good. Now, the next step, it sounds complicated, but believe me, it's not. For 5 quarts of milk, you're going to add 3 drops of rennet, and you're going to use like either a clean eyedropper like you see in the picture, or a lot of the rennet bottles come with a dropper already attached to the top, so you don't even have to mess with the eyedropper. So in either case, you need 3 drops of rennet. You're going to put the 3 drops of rennet into 1/3 cup of cool water. And this direction right now is for 5 quarts of milk. 3 drops of rennet into 1/3 cup cool water. Cool water, not warm water. Now you're going to stir that in that measuring cup a little bit so it's mixed. Then you're going to take 2 tablespoons of this diluted rennet and water mixture and stir that into the milk for 30 seconds. Stir it in. Now, if you use 2 quarts of milk, you're going to add only 1 drop of rennet to 1/4 cup of cool water. And then you're only going to take 2 tablespoons of this diluted rennet and water mixture and stir it into the milk for 30 seconds. Okay, so stir it in, and then I want you to put the lid on the pot and leave it alone. So now you're going to let it sit, basically. See how easy it is? You're going to cover the pot, you're going to leave it alone, you're going to let it sit at room temperature for about 8 to 12 hours. And what happens that at the end of this time, a firm curd has formed. Kind of like with yogurt, when you see yogurt, how it's kind of thick and there might be some whey on top. And you might see some clear whey on top of the curd, and that's perfect. Now, I don't want you to keep messing with your milk now, with your coagulating milk. You might be tempted to keep moving it around, keep jiggling it, keep checking on it. I want you to not do that. Because if you keep jiggling it, it's not going to work. It's not going to set up right. So often what I do, timing-wise, just what works for me, I often start the cheese, the whole pasteurizing and then putting the culture and rennet in, start that in the morning, and then it's ready to drain in the evening. I'll show you that in a second. Or the other cool thing you can do is you start it in the evening, and you just let it sit overnight, and then it's ready to drain in the morning. So whatever fits your schedule, do that. Now, step 5, then, after it's done sitting for 8 to 12 hours, you drain the curd. If you use Chèvre molds, now you just carefully place the curd into them with a ladle. It's really important to treat the curd very gently and not just slosh it around and mess it up, but just gently take your ladle and spoon the curd into those little containers there. Just be gentle there. You're going to fill them all the way to the top. And then, when you get to the bottom of the pot there, there'll be a lot of whey in it. Now, my tip is to just drain this out and save it. And don't put it down your septic system if you have a septic system, because do you know how I know? I know because I used to do it. And then $500 later, when everything was clogged up and the septic guy had to come out, I learned that you shouldn't put your whey into the septic system. But it's wonderful to use the whey for bread making, or you can water your plants, you can give it to your chickens, to your dogs, you can make boil rice with it. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. Either way, you're just gonna fill the molds all the way to the top so they can start draining gently. Or if you use cheesecloth now, of course, again, use butter muslin, and just put it in there, and then just let it. Well, what I have done was I just drape that cheesecloth over a colander that is then sitting on a bowl so that the whey can get all caught in it, and then just carefully pour those curds into the cloth that's draped, in a colander over a bowl. Or you can even ladle them in with your ladle, and then just hang that cheesecloth up and let that drain. And then you're going to let this drain for 8 to 12 hours, okay? Now, the longer it drains, the drier it will be. Do you see how far down it went from the other picture over? How far down the curds went because all the whey drained out of it? Obviously now, if you want to have your cheese a little bit moister, you're going to drain it for a shorter period of time. If so look at the consistency here. This is a little moisture right there. When you like the texture of the cheese, have a little taste of it. You just take them out of the molds or the cheesecloth, and then comes the fun part. You just put it into a bowl, and for every 2 pounds of cheese, you add 1 teaspoon of salt, or however much you want, however you like the taste, and you just kind of experiment with that. You can then add the herbs and spices, right? You can go nuts with this. You can go insane with it. You can roll it into logs. You can shape it into balls. You can put it in the Ziploc bags to freeze it. You can make cheesecake with it. I really love garlic powder on it, or fresh garlic, or chopped up chives, or parsley, or oregano, or marjoram, and then spread that on bread or crackers. And my number one famous, I want to say famous, I'm not exaggerating, it's pretty famous, is to use the Chèvre in lasagna instead of ricotta cheese. It is so awesome, so creamy, so yummy. You can use it in recipes asking for cream cheese, like my famous cheesecake makes the best cheesecake. When you use it, when you make it a little bit drier, you let it drain a little longer, and you have some nice dry Chèvre for cheesecake. You can add fruit to it, and you can make it a dessert. So you can really see there are endless options to making Chèvre and how to use it. And I want to now tell you, if you like what I just taught you, and if you are inspired about cheese making, I want to invite you into my online cheese baking course. And you basically get what I just taught you. You get that all in a PDF ebook. You get all the different recipes and the step-by-step instructions. You're gonna get a movie where I demonstrate you exactly how to do this and how I do that in my kitchen. Gonna get clickable links to order your cultures, to order your rennet, the Chèvre mold, the cheesecloth. You just click on it and you got it all there. And it also includes how to make Greek yogurt. Then, of course, the Chèvre. My online cheese making course includes Gouda, how to make Gouda, and how to make Cabra al Vino. So you have all these amazing tutorials and videos and instruction on how to make all this beautiful, beautiful cheese. and I want to invite you into my online cheesemaking course. And for this very limited time, I'm going to give that to you 20% off. So it brings the cost down to only $39, which for everything you get is really, really, really amazingly affordable. And at the checkout, when you go to this link here that I have here, and also will give you a little later, you just enter the coupon code Chèvre when you check out, and you're going to automatically get it at that discount. And you're going to get my beautiful, detailed, downloadable ebooks on making each cheese. It's a self-paced online course. So you can, you can keep it for life. You can pause the videos. You can keep the ebooks forever. You can print everything out. You can keep it on your computer. My books are filled with gorgeous pictures, step-by-step instructions, and many, many tips and tricks for every single cheese or yogurt that I have learned in over a decade of making thousands of pounds of cheese at home. Literally that much. It also comes with supply lists and my own Kindle ebook that is for sale on Amazon, but you're going to get it in the cheese course for free, where you can order your culture, rennet, molds, cheesecloth, and all this directly from clickable links to make it super easy. And you get the Kindle ebook. Now, the fun part here is you get my movies. So I made demonstration movies in my kitchen to show you up close, every single one, how to make it. And so you can really see, if you're a visual learner like me, it'll be really helpful for you. And then some of the most amazing perks of this class is that you get my private Facebook group where I'm in every single day, where I will hold your hand, literally. You can message me, you can get on Facebook Lives with me to problem solve. You get to connect with a like-minded group of foodies and celebrate your successes and ask me questions and problem solve and just have access to a wonderful, wonderful community. And it's a self-paced course. As I said, you can start whenever you want. You don't have to finish it if you don't want to. You can watch it as many times as you want, download everything, the ebooks, the movies, the PDFs, the recipes, and you have access to yours truly, the expert, where I honestly really help you. Just hold your hand, basically. I'm going to stand next to you, look over your shoulder, and show you exactly what to do. Not to be overly dramatic here, but this course could actually change your life, because one of the reasons is really it could save you an incredible amount of money. Because, have you ever bought a nice artisan hunk of cheese at the store and see how much money that costs? You can make that for a fraction at the cost when you make it yourself. And you have complete control over all the ingredients. Makes it so much healthier and wholesome. There won't be any dangerous antibiotics in your milk or weird ingredients or preservatives that you can't even pronounce, or any kind of weird harmful food coloring in your cheese. And you guys, do you know how fun it is to make cheese? It is such an empowering skill towards self-sufficiency. You can make it with your kids and with your spouse and just have a fun activity to do together. Makes great Christmas presents for people or birthday presents. I also have gift certificates available if people want to do that. Now, the online cheesemaking course also comes with mouth-watering recipes. I'm actually salivating looking at this picture right now. There will be recipes like Chevre cheesecake, the salad with caramelized peaches and Chèvre, marinated Chèvre balls, and so much more. For the Gouda, you're going to get the spinach quiche with Gouda recipe, my cauliflower cheese soup with Gouda, baked zucchini with tomatoes and Gouda, grilled Gouda sandwiches. The recipes for Cabra and Vino include, now I'm drooling, drunken goat cheese sandwich with olive tapenade, baked quinoa with Cabra al Vino, and more. So I want to really invite you to hop on over into that course and just order it now. It's going to be limited, so act now, and you get 20% off my course, and really $39 is an amazing deal. So just go to the course link here, and at checkout, just enter the coupon code Chèvre. Now, I have a lot of students who have taken this course, and I have had only positive feedback from all these hundreds of people. One of them here, Debbie, says, the caliber of this online class was exceptional, using your skill, knowledge, and expertise and joy in cheesemaking and presenting it as you have has come through clearly and professionally. making the art and science of cheesemaking accessible to us novices. You know what? I believe that teaching should be fun, and I'm really fun to learn with. My movies are not boring by any stretch of the imagination. And then Kathleen says, I have been making cheese for many years by reading books, talking to other cheesemakers. Corina's course has taught me so much more. Her recipes are very easy and realistic. I'm a much better cheesemaker from taking her course. I highly recommend it for whatever stage of cheesemaking you're in. It's so worth it. Oh, thank you, Kathleen. And then Barb says, I had always wanted to make my own cheese, but was intimidated with all the steps and precision of it all. Corina and her recipes made everything seem easy and doable, and I did it. Made by me cheese. Yay! And then finally Sarah says, this course was terrific. I am pretty able in the kitchen and adventurous, but I really needed an extra push to delve into cheesemaking. So I want to invite you, come on over to my cheese course. I would love to have you and hold your hand. All right, switch from screen share. I'm back. I hope you learned a whole lot today, and I hope you're inspired. And I sure hope that you're going to sign up for my online cheesemaking course, because I am literally going to hold you by the hand. And if you're stuck, if you need any help, I'm going to be right there in the kitchen with you. So I think this is probably my number one favorite thing about the class, is that you're going to have access to yours truly. So come sign up. And if not, no worries. Have fun making cheese. And hopefully I'll see you somewhere out there in virtual internet land. Bye.